So Joe Joyce versus Marco Huck is apparently off. Huck pulled out citing a supposed injury. A lot of people are questioning the veracity of that claim. Some people are speculating that maybe Marco Huck's people had some money issues when it came to putting the fight on because they had delayed it, I believe, several times. Whatever the case may be, I can't imagine too many boxing fans are particularly upset about this fight being cancelled. Because let's be real, Marco Huck's best days are well and truly behind him. For one, he's a career cruiserweight. Yes, he did step up to heavyweight many, many moons ago and give Povetkin a run for his money, but that was a long, long time ago. And since then, he's mostly campaigned at cruiserweight. He had a good run as WBO cruiserweight champion, but in recent years, he was stopped by Krzysztof Klovatsky. He was stopped by Alexander Usyk in the World Boxing Super Series. So he's really coming to the end of his career. Stepping up to heavyweight at this stage against a huge guy like Joe Joyce, who's full of energy, probably wouldn't have ended well for Marco Huck. Now, I can understand why Joe Joyce wanted to fight, because it's another thing to tick off his achievement checklist. He's already been Commonwealth champion, and now he had the opportunity to become European champion against Marco Huck. So I get it. I cannot understand the thinking of Joe Joyce and Sam Jones. But at this point, what does he do? Does he try and wait for Marco Huck again? Will the EBU order somebody else to fight Joe Joyce for the vacant European title? Or will Joe Joyce decide to go in a different direction completely? Well, if we look at the EBU rankings to try and suss out who may be eligible to fight Joe Joyce for that vacant belt, obviously you've got a lot of guys in here who are not going to want to fight for the European title, either because they're fighting at world level or because they're making, very good money in other fights. They're not going to be interested at this point. So in terms of the guys who probably will be interested or may be interested in fighting for a European title, you've got the likes of Ajit Kabayel, but wasn't he supposed to fight Joe Joyce for the vacant belt already? And he pulled out, and that's why Huck stepped in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the case. So I don't know what's going on with him, but that would be a good fight for Joe Joyce. Joyce versus Kabayel. You got, obviously, Pulev is, looking to fight for a world title, so he's not going to be interested. Carlos Takam against Joe Joyce, that'd be a good fight for the vacant European heavyweight title. Definitely like to see that. Takam is one of them tough guys, has gloves, will travel, so definitely. Umut Kamkiran, never heard of him. Huey Fury. Yeah, he's with Matchroom at the moment, but I can't imagine they'll be too precious about Huey Fury. I'm sure for the right deal, they'd send him over to BT to fight Joe Joyce for the vacant European. Robert Helenius, he's kind of long in the tooth now, but still a big guy. Can whack a bit, so perhaps Joe Joyce wouldn't mind that fight. Filip Hrgović, now we'd all love to see Joe Joyce versus Hrgović. Can't see it happening anytime soon. They did fight in the World Series of Boxing. For those of you who don't know, you can watch that fight on YouTube. And Joe Joyce actually won that fight against Filip Hrgović. Love to see them rematch in the pros, but I can't imagine their management teams will want to put them in against each other unless it's serious money. Remember, this is not an in-house fight. This is a cross-promotional fight. Hrgović with Matchroom and Sauerland, and Joe Joyce with BT and Frank Warren. So can't imagine that fight is going to take place anytime soon, because I don't think there's that much money in it at this point for that rematch. And their management teams have probably got different ideas for them at this point. Herve Hubo, no idea who that is. Erkan Tepa, again, long in the tooth, but he is somewhat of a name at European level, so maybe Joe Joyce would be interested in that. David Price, of course. Tom Schwartz. It's not really a great fight, but at least it's somebody who's been in with somebody at world level in Tyson Fury, so maybe Joe Joyce might like that. Again, it all depends on the EBU if they want to order somebody else to fight Joe Joyce for the vacant belt rather than Huck. So, yeah, that's just an idea of potential replacement opponents. Now, of course, a lot of talk is about Joe Joyce fighting for the British heavyweight title because, of course, he's been Commonwealth champion. He's trying to become European champion, but he hasn't been British heavyweight champion yet. Daniel Dubois is the current British heavyweight champion, and that's a fight that Frank Warren has made no secret about wanting to make. But Sam Jones and Joe Joyce are basically saying that Frank Warren hasn't offered them enough money yet. Look, Joe Joyce is not afraid of Daniel Dubois. He's sparred him in the past. He's fought very, very high level fighters in the amateurs and in the World Series of Boxing. He's certainly not afraid of Dubois, but of course he understands the risk of fighting Dubois right now. Joe Joyce is looking to fight people who are, former champions or above British level, basically, European title. And interestingly, by the way, Daniel Dubois is not ranked in the EBU top 19, at least not under these ratings, which are up to the end of November. So it could have been good to see Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois for the European, right? British European and all that kind of business, Commonwealth. That would have been good. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. Perhaps the EBU are going to change their rankings in the upcoming days. But for now, if he was to fight Daniel Dubois, it would probably just be for the British and Commonwealth. Again, Joe Joyce is fought at a high level. He's going to want to be financially compensated for coming back down. That's how he's going to view it. Coming back down to British level to fight Daniel Dubois. He'll want to be compensated a lot because he's looking to try and, move up in the world rankings and get a world title shot. And of course, Joe Joyce doesn't have a lot of time on his hands. He's already in his, mid-30s now? Is he 33, 34? So he can't afford a loss at that kind of level. Joe Joyce can afford a loss at world level. Yeah, he could probably still come back. As long as he gave a good account of himself, if he loses to somebody in the top 10, he can come again and get himself back in the mix relatively quickly. But if he was to lose to Daniel Dubois for the British heavyweight title, it's a long way back for a guy the age of Joe Joyce, Perception is everything. Some people might say, no, it's not really a long way back because they believe Daniel Dubois is at world level now. Again, that's the perception of some. But in the grand scheme of things, it would be a lot easier to recover for Joe Joyce if he lost to, let's say, an Andy Ruiz than if he lost to a Daniel Dubois. And I'm not saying he would lose to either of them, okay? I'm just speaking hypothetically because this is how boxing managers think. This is how Sam Jones is thinking, that the manager has to think about what if things go wrong. The fighter always has a winning mentality. Joe Joyce is, as I say, sparred Daniel Dubois. He's been in there against so many top fighters in the amateurs in the World Series of Boxing. So he's got a fighter's mentality. He believes he can beat Dubois, I'm sure. But Sam Jones, he has to think about what if he doesn't beat Dubois. He has to be more strategic with it. And unless they're offered an absolute boatload of money, they're probably not going to take that fight, much to Frank Warren's frustration. Frank Warren is going to have to put his hand deep in his pocket, and not just to make the Joe Joyce fight, but to get any of the better-known heavyweights out there in the ring with Dubois. He's going to have to put his hand deep in his pocket. That's what it's going to take. Yeah? So, anyway, as far as Joe Joyce, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What move do you think he'll make next? What opponents would you like to see him in there with? Obviously, Daniel Dubois is one of them, but what other opponents? Let me know in the comment section below, people. It's Hatman, I'm out. Hatman merch is now available. We got t-shirts, vests, hoodies, and more. Just click the link below.